You have professional fishermen and you have YouTube fishermen. I think for the most part, we all know what we can learn from the pros, but I also believe that a lot of pros can learn from YouTubers. And today we bring on a special guest to talk just about that. So stay tuned, it's gonna be a good one. All right, welcome back to the Bass Juice podcast. Today, I'm super excited because we got a guy on the show today that is not only a great fisherman, but he's a really good buddy, and that is Tyler Anderson from Tyler's Reel Fishing. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about kind of the differences between the professional fishing side, professional tournament side of things, and the YouTube fishermen and whatnot. And I think it's just going to be a very interesting episode all about, sponsorships and just things that Tyler's seen. He's kind of been on both realms of it. So I'm really excited about that. But how are you doing, CJ?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited. This is going to be a great podcast. If you don't know anything about Tyler, which I doubt you do or don't.
I see what you're saying.
He's like an OG YouTuber.
That's
been
true.
doing it forever.
True.
Started from the ground, worked his way up, and now he's really got a really cool story. He travels with Alton Jones Jr., films all of his content. So I'm excited to get into it and see, his side of things.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Yeah. Well, Tyler, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm sitting here where we're talking about how the fact that I'm a night owl. That probably allows me to get a lot of editing done, but I told you guys I want to meet as early as possible so I can get started on my day and not sleep until 10 a.m. So Thank you for getting me up this morning.
Yeah, dude. Tyler, I was just telling CJ, man, he really kept me up pretty late the nights that we stayed together and filmed together. But, man, I really wanted to just get your take on kind of the whole pro fishing, I hate to say pro fishing versus YouTube fishing, but sometimes I feel like for a while there actually was a big divide almost in the industry of the professional side of things and then these YouTube fishermen. And I kind of want to hear your take on it because you've told me stories, especially as you kind of came about, like CJ said, you were one of the OG YouTubers there. And so like coming through the whole realm of people almost starting to give you respect, I really just kind of want to talk about that and hear some of those stories from back in the day of what it was like to kind of be where you are now.
Yeah, one of the cool things about doing this, as long as I've done it over 10 years at this point, is that I've really seen not just the video styles shift and the content and filming styles as YouTube and other platforms have come and gone. I've also seen the attitudes of anglers across the industry change towards content. And so I guess I can't really think about specific names or instances, but I just kind of think about themes of when I first started making videos. I also fished in tournaments. Now, it was like the early stages of high school and college fishing, and so they weren't as official as they were now. There wasn't as much sponsor. Actually, take that back. There probably was more sponsor dollars and prize money in fishing back then than there was now. But the one thing I'm going to say is that cameras were just not really accepted in the tournament scene. And so when I came, especially into the scene in Central Texas, where I'm from, people just didn't really not even like it weigh-in, didn't really like me filming things, and especially like in their boat. They were more secretive about tackle and what they were throwing. And so this was, again, before Bass Live was even around. And so, I think the whatever you call it, the live well or whatever they're like earlier. No, not the live well. There was like the war room was the only type of live fishing content, and you didn't see anything of what the pros were doing. And so when I was back with Lucky Tackle Box years ago, they were one of the first companies in the fishing industry that really, and I'm no longer affiliated with them. They really saw the power of what content could be for companies. And so they flew like 15 of us YouTubers to ICAST. It was ICAST 2015 or 2016. They had us all wear the same T-shirts. We were all walking around with cameras like this, vlogging. And I mean, the industry was confused for sure because none of us had huge fan bases, but the companies had no idea what a YouTuber was. Of course, they all still were all in on TV, all in on the tournament coverage. Not even Bass Live tournament coverage, just the TV shows that came out afterwards. And so to meet companies and professionals at that stage, 9 years ago, they were confused. They were intrigued, but there was definitely, I could tell, some animosity. I'm not going to name any names now that I'm thinking about it. There were some that even to my face would say stuff about me not deserving sponsorship dollars because I'm not a pro. A college fisherman one time to my face told me that I've only won the Pond Master Classic. And so there was just some early animosity, I think, because it was so unusual. Looking back, I'm not sure if they necessarily had any hate in their heart, but it was just more like, this is weird. You don't really finish well in tournaments, so why are you getting sponsor dollars? At least you're not winning the biggest of tournaments. So I think since then, we'll talk about it, things have gotten a lot better, and it's actually kind of flip-flopped to now where pros are leaning into YouTubers for not just information, but also actual work as well.
Yeah. No, I think that is kind of fascinating. Like you said, the industry at first almost didn't accept it, but now it's I don't want to say it's completely reversed, but it is interesting how, like you just talked about, you have a lot of professional anglers seeking either help or getting video guys, getting camera guys, all about content creation. Like the whole industry has really shifted to, like, obviously you want to fish well in tournaments and do well, but if you can be the best at creating content or whatever, like, you can provide a lot of value for businesses. And I think that they're starting to really see that, and you see it all over from not just like small mom and pop companies, but I mean the biggest lure brands that there are, the biggest boat brands that there even are. I mean, electronics, everything. They're all kind of getting into the content side, which is just, to me, it's just fascinating how it has kind of flipped over the years.
It has, and I think a lot of it was, 10 years ago, these pros, anglers, they were a closed book. They've got their secrets, and now they see the value of opening the book and saying, showing, hey, this is my secret technique. This is what I do. This is how I approach tournaments. And I think now that they're kind of an open book, that's where we see the content really come to fruition, come and shine, and now it's at the forefront of the angler as opposed to their tournament finishes.
Yeah, I was actually listening to the Bilge podcast with Zaldane, which we've referenced before. It's a great podcast show, and Zaldane was talking about how he's had a down year, but at the same time, like, he's been producing a ton of great content, and that's stuff that he can show any one of his sponsors. Even though he's having a down year fishing wise, he's having a great year content wise, and that is bringing eyeballs to him, eyeballs to the brands that he works with. I mean, the Bass Pro Shops, the Nitros, the Black Rifle Company, you're seeing that more and more. And so to me, and Tyler, I had this question, like, do you think that in the future, do you think that every professional angler is pretty much going to need a camera guy or be able to film themselves of some sort in the future?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is yes, to whatever extent they can. So, you've got people like you had Hunter Shryock here on the podcast. He didn't have a camera guy for a long time, and now his wife helps him out and film some stuff. And so I think as long as you can set the GoPro up, you have a good audio source, and you know how to quickly throw together an edit of something, and maybe have some talking about how you caught them and teaching, certain lures like you and I do, man, I think that's going to be a necessity for pros. And I think if you really want to step up your sponsor game and you have the personality to do it, having your own personal camera guy, whether it's full-time for the year like Wheeler does and some other guys who hire people for the entire 12 months, even off season, or somebody like Alton who hires me just for the season. I think, again, if you have the personality and the fish catching ability to do it, it's going to radically increase the amount of sponsor dollars you can make. I mean, I've already seen, I'm not going to say numbers, but I've already seen how Alton's sponsorships have increased and the prospect of them from just 1 year of us doing his series Trimmed Up together.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a super awesome series. We're going to link Alton's channel as well as, of course, Tyler. You guys have probably already subscribed to Tyler, though, down below. But that is a really good series. You've done a great job, and you've filmed and edited all those, correct?
I did, yes. So it's a lot of work, but it's a ton of fun. I just love getting cool footage. I love 4K 120. I love color grading, and I love, the side that maybe I can't do. I guess I could do it, but it's not worth my time right now for my channel. I love to get to do it for somebody else. And, as a YouTuber, I talk about this more than just a videographer, is that he hired me, and he knows this. He hired me because he knows that I have inside information on how to build social pages, that if he hired some freelance camera guy who may have the same video skills or better than I do, but doesn't shoot for the prospect of how will this look on YouTube? How will this look on TikTok? How will this look on Instagram and Facebook? And so that's kind of the value that I can bring, not just to Alton, but also to the rest of my sponsors on every platform, is that I've been doing this for a long time. And so the fact that I know how the algorithms work and how, people's viewing and clicking behavior is, that's brought a lot of value to him and has made our working relationship even more fun.
This video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app. This is an app that you can download on your phone that helps you define bass on your local bodies of water a lot quicker. Once you download this app, you can actually select the lake that you are fishing, and then you can input data like water temperature, water clarity, whether you are fishing around vegetation, or if you are fishing in a windy or protected area. Once you input all this information, the app will actually spit out lures, techniques, and areas that you can go on your local body of water to catch bass. This app is backed by hundreds of different tournament results from across the nation and can be extremely accurate. So if you guys would like to help support the Bass Fishing HQ channel and allow me to bring more videos like this to you, hit that link down below and download the Deep Dive app today. Professional anglers that are trying to get into the YouTube space, especially on YouTube, I don't laugh, but I do see when they put out videos, and I realize that, like you just said, they don't know how YouTube works, or they don't know the algorithm, how it works, and they're putting out video content out there, which is great, but to have it actually be seen is a totally different thing. I mean, that's why people are, I guess, YouTubers, as like that you kind of have to study the algorithm a little bit, understand it. And that's really smart on Alton's, AJJ's, and to really hire you to say like, hey, not only do I need you for the video quality that you do and provide, but you understand how YouTube works, and not just YouTube, but other social platforms. And that's really just great on him to do that and to realize that, because like you said, now it's impacting him in a monetary standpoint, where, what you're providing is probably starting to pretty much be paid for, so that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's you sold your value. It's a value added. Sure, he could have just gotten anyone to video him the entire season, but his investment in you, Tyler, is knowing that you have the experience to not only create the content, but make sure that it's viewed.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest key. Like
Yeah.
you said, you could put up a great YouTube video. It just gets lost out there.
Oh, yeah.
No one knows it's out there. So by having someone experienced like Tyler really, take the reins and say, hey, we're going to get this done.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So good for Alton on noticing that and investing into you, Ty.
Yeah, and it also helps that he's my best friend. So
Yeah.
that helps our working relationship a ton. The fact that there's no there's tense moments for sure where maybe I mess something up, or there's been a few times on the water following him that I did something that maybe I cut him off on accident, or one time on Cayuga. Oh my goodness. So he wants me to be nowhere near a bait or a rod or anything if I'm on the water following him, because it could potentially look bad if somehow either I'm fishing while he's on the water, even like not near him. If I get done following him and I start fishing, somebody takes a photo. Tyler's camera guy was on the water during competition. catching fish. And so one time at Cayuga this year, he's going down the bank looking for smallies to catch. And I'm like 50 yards behind him in like 80 feet of water. And again, I don't know how much about Cayuga fish and what they do, but I was like, you know what? They're all on the bank. And so I just kind of was, looking around, and I'm not going to film him unless he's on a fish. And so I have the camera down, and we're just cruising out in 80 feet of water. And all of a sudden, dude, there is the biggest smallmouth bass I've ever seen in person. I'm not joking when I say it was probably the same record that guy caught at Cayuga. It was probably 8.5 or 9 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just cruising on top of the water 5 feet from my boat. And me and my editor, Taylor, were both looking at it like, what is that? And it dawns on us as it reaches my console that it's a smallmouth. So I like go into YouTuber mode. I like fly to the boat deck, open the rod locker, get out a hair jig, and about to make a cast. And Alton, I hear him yell at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And to me, it was just like, I'm going to catch this crazy fish, because if I get it on camera, how many views would that get?
Yeah.
And to him, he looks back and thinks, why is Tyler not filming me anymore? And then sees that I have a rod in my hand.
Oh, gosh.
And it's so that kind of stuff, happens. But even then, we made up for it, after getting off the water. And I was like, I realized that was a dumb image move to make. So, but all that to say, it's been fun to work for him. We have a good time together. We pitch sponsors together for him. And so it's been a cool working relationship to work with somebody who you really trust and admire as a business partner and a friend.
Yeah. That's interesting though. One, I don't think there's any fisherman in the world who wouldn't see a smallmouth of that size and not try to pick up a rod. I mean, so I feel you on that one. But the interesting thing that you just said is that you kind of help pitch sponsors, and we won't get into dollar amounts and stuff like that, but that's a very interesting concept that I really haven't heard before, is someone kind of utilizing, their content specialist to pitch. So that's unique. What do you, have you done that for a couple of years now, or is it something that's relatively new?
That's something that just happened before this season. And I think it was honestly kind of on a whim decision by Alton. I hadn't thought about it. Like, I'm not trying to be his manager, but we're trying to land a big sponsor for him and his content. And I had done some work with them, but the employees had, came and gone, and who I worked with. But he was about to hop on a call with them to talk about the series. And he's like, "Hey, could you come on the call and maybe give some expertise as to what we're going to be doing?" And I could just tell on the call that, not that he didn't have the right words to say, but I mean, they were eating what I was saying out of the palm of my hand. Like it was like I was speaking the exact terms the company wanted to hear. I was talking about, getting them return on investment. I was talking about how many views across what platforms. And I think I kind of overwhelmed them with good, sweet nothings about content. And so Alton, because of that, gave me a cut of his contract.
Oh.
And so it was that specific contract there was like a management fee per se, that of course won't continue into next year. But in terms of other sponsors for this coming year, he hasn't gotten me on calls with them. But of course, we talk about his deals, and he says, "Hey, what do you think this is worth? Is this added work to you? And if so, what is that worth? Or what do you need to be paid to do that for me?" And so just talking about the inner workings of it with the person you work with, and not just being a video guy. I'm trying to give my input as to what the work is worth. Again, has made it so much better to work with them.
I think that's extremely valuable for a professional angler. I mean, it reminds me a lot. I used to work as a marketing specialist for a local marketing company, and we had salespeople that would go out on calls. And I had a lady that she worked with me a lot with different companies, and I was specific on paid search. And anytime they wanted to talk about paid search things, they would bring me in a call. They would bring me in, just like you said, I would be able to speak exactly what they wanted to hear, the terms that they wanted to hear, exactly what they wanted to hear, to be able to say, yes, we'll go with this. Yes, we'll spend this amount. And I think that that's really, really important, especially in today's age as the professional angler, because, you know, if you're, and we don't know what, you know, that contract ended up being, but if you're asking a company for $20, $30, $40, $50,000, you really have to provide them with some sort of return on that. It's no longer the days of wearing a patch on your shirt and hopefully you'll get on TV. Like you want to be able to provide value. And I'm sure you were really easily able to say, hey, we're going to get this amount of views. People are going to watch us for this amount of time too. That's a big thing, is like, you know, when people watch Bass Live, they see an angler, if they make the top 10, they're going to see them for a short amount of time, even in one day. But if someone says, hey, like I can look down at a video and say, you know, I just got 5,000 watch hours of time, people literally watching me using your product, doing this. And I think that that's really valuable for the professional angler now, to be able to have something other than like, hey, you know, I hope I can make a couple of top 10s and show you on Bass Live or whatever it may be.
Right. And it really helps the angler focus on being a professional angler.
Yeah.
Catching fish. But you have to utilize your team, whether it's Alton with Tyler, whether it's the angler and the wife takes care of the camper while the angler's fishing. Mm-hmm. Utilize your team. And a lot of it, I mean, it's like a sports team, mm-hmm. where you've got a specialist. Okay, we've got a kicker. Did you get them? No. But yeah, I think it's super important. You don't work for Alton. You guys are teammates in this whole, you know, the entire mm-hmm. year. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned pitching sponsors, the ROI, return on investment. What do you guys typically go for? Is it a 1 to 6, 1 to 7, 7 to 10?
I'm gonna be totally honest. I have no clue what that means.
He means like if you say, hey, you know, like your ROI is a 6 to 1, meaning like you get 6 times your investment. If you know, put it with us, do you have a certain, you know, scale as to what you say with those sponsorships?
No, I've never. I guess that's where you guys, as the actual marketing background people, have the numbers there. No, I guess what I meant by ROI was just I wasn't going to tell companies that we can provide you with a certain amount. It was just, here's the exposure you can get, and then here's why, in my 10 years of experience, that exposure means more for ROI than just seeing a logo on someone's shirt.
Yeah,
that's more what I was getting at, is that here's why our exposure is valuable, not necessarily here's a 6 to 1 or a 7 to 1 value.
Yeah. I think that with me having the marketing side, it's been a great thing when it comes to sponsorships. It's also been a bad thing at times, just because I understand. For example, if I know what a company can get a lot of times if they're going to spend their money on Google, or if they're going to spend money on a YouTube ad, if they're going to spend money on a Facebook ad, I know what good results are. And a lot of these companies, if you have a good ad, you're going to get a 4 to 6 times your investment. And you'll be able to see it all because it's very trackable with those big platforms like Google and Facebook, where you can say, hey, I put $10 in, I got $60 in return. So that's something that has helped me. But it's also hurt me, because I know that if I'm asking a company to spend, you know, $25,000, $30,000 or whatever it may be, I know that I need to provide $100,000 to them basically in return for them to really make it worthwhile. And I actually heard Kevin Van Dam talk about this again on the Zaldane podcast, and he was talking with, you know, a lot of these companies like to see a 7 times ROI. Which is actually pretty significant, and I'm not going to call bull crap on that. I understand it, but I'm going to let most of those companies know that if they're going to spend money in Google, they're not going to see a 7 times ROI most of the time. Even in Facebook, a 7 is unheard of. So I think as a company and as a as a angler, if you can provide a 3 times ROI, that you are doing a pretty good job. Because most of the time, if you spend that money in a Google ad, a YouTube ad, a Facebook ad, if you're getting 3 times your ROI, 4 times your ROI, that's good. You're doing well with your marketing dollars and you're making money back. So if an angler can provide a 3 times ROI, I would say technically you're actually doing pretty good. And if you think about it, a lot of businesses that I've worked with in the past on the marketing side of things, they structure their business where they have 30% of their say they have a product or service. About 30% of it is going to be labor, product costs, whatever that may be. The other 30% is going to be their profit, and then they'll spend 30% in marketing. And that's how they structure a lot of things. And I think that that's actually a good way to approach it. So if you are getting a company a 6 or 7 times ROI, I think that is phenomenal, to be honest. And I know that, again, from my marketing. I worked in marketing for a number of years probably hundreds of different companies. So I've seen a lot when it comes to that. So I think but even then, you also have to realize that some companies don't care sometimes actually about ROI. Sometimes they want to know views. They want to know engagement. They want to know those type of things. So you also have to gauge, what is this company, like, what do they value? That's a big thing for people as well.
Yep. Are they looking at sales? Do companies value their customers more than their sales? Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of a successful company does that, because if they take care of their customers and they're providing the customers with the products that they're purchasing, good faces behind the brand, the customers, they're just going to keep coming back. Mm-hmm. And so a company that cares more about their profits is not going to be customer oriented, because they're going to raise their prices when they need to. They're going to cut back on marketing to raise their profits. So a company being more customer forward, I think, is going to be more successful. And the interesting part of that is, if you take KVD, Kevin Van Dam, he said that they shoot for a 7-to-1 ROI. That's massive, but it's also Kevin. So I believe he has the power to get that ROI up there. Yeah. It's just not normal, but it is Kevin.
Yeah, that's very true. And he's been with Strike King forever. I know you've been with Strike King for a long time too as well, Tyler. How long have you been with Strike King and Lose and everything like that?
Yeah, so I joined the Lose Reels side of things in 2017, I believe, maybe 18. So what is that? 7 years, 7 years. And then the next year I left the rod company I was with, went with Lose Rods and Reels. That was when Lose was just figuring out how to build a rod. So I broke a few early on, but they've since figured it out, and it's not hard to make a great rod nowadays. And so then I joined Strike King, I think 5 years ago, and that was just hey, can you guys offer me the same as Lose? And they said yes. So the contract doubled, and I got put together with both. And, I would love, we're kind of going away from, we can go back to Alton, but going to the YouTube side of things, for me, I would love to be able to be like you, or like Tactical, where you can make videos about whatever lure you want. You can review whatever product and rod and reel you want and be able to talk about it. But because that would free me up to have less sponsor obligations. But I kind of look at it in two ways. One is that I'm a relationship guy. I've, based upon my faith and also just how I was raised, I love forming good relationships. And so if that means that I'm partnered with a big company like Strike King, Lose, or Skeeter, Yamaha, whatever it is, personally, to use their products, and I enjoy working with them, and I enjoy the partnership we have, that's kind of worth a lot to me, just personally. Sure. And so I've loved working with it's called Rather Outdoors, is the Strike King, Lose, and now Quantum and a bunch of outdoor brands. I've loved working with them. Tom Brubaker, who's my boss over there, he's awesome. And same with all the companies that I work with. So I think, I'd love to be able to talk about the very the very few lures that I would want to use, again, Strike King and Lures, they make 98% of the things that you can get by as an angler. And so I don't even think it would increase my fish catching ability at all to not be sponsored and not be tied down to somebody. And so I've loved the process of, especially now with Mock being able to design combos, and now we have a whole bunch of lures coming out. So it's just to me, it's a cool opportunity to partnership. I think about it as that way and not being tied down to a company. And as long as they treat me right, and any company does, I see no reason to ever leave. And then of course the guaranteed money is nice as well from the big companies.
Yes. That is something that is super nice. Like you just said, it's what you're referring to is me not being tied down. I've kind of said no to several brands as far as sponsorship goes, because they do tend to want you to be exclusive when you talk about, you know, their products and not talk about others, which is completely understandable. I've said no to several, but I have also probably not been Striking is a company that is like, man, they do provide pretty much, I mean, they have everything. And there's a ton of Strike King products that I use, like literally like on the front deck of my boat, I probably have 7 Strike King products right
and
now.
It's nice because being with Strike King, you aren't pigeonholed into, I got to make this work. No, they've got everything. Lose, they've got everything you need to be a successful bass angler, YouTuber. So that's super cool.
Yeah. But a question that I thought was interesting is, you know, you have a child on the way. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I have 3 now, just had a third. And I thought to myself the other day, like, if my son came up to me saying like, hey, I want to be in the fishing industry, what would I tell him to do? Would I tell him like, hey, shoot for tournament fishing stuff? Or would I say, hey, do the content side? You know, because I've been on both sides of it and I love both sides. I love tournament fishing to death. I love the content creation side to death. But looking at it nowadays, I mean, you definitely have to do like both if you want to be a tournament fisherman these days, but you can also just not even worry about the tournament side and do the YouTube or content creation side of things. And I thought to myself, like, what would I tell him? Would I tell him to go with what he wants, or would I say, because in my mind, I kind of think like when I did the opens, you just spend so much money being a tournament fisherman. And, you know, when I kind of flipped the switch and went on kind of the content creation side of things, I realized that, you know, you could not spend as much and you could make a living at it, you know, right now making a living at it. So it's just a thought that I thought I'd ask you, Tyler, like what do you see? What's your side? What would you say to your, I don't know if you're having, I don't remember if it's a son or a daughter, if you guys have found out or if you're waiting.
We will find out tomorrow.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Congrats, by the way.
Exactly. So that'll be fun. But, you know, to answer your question, if you were to offer me that question 4 years ago, I was younger. I was probably a little less restrictive on my tongue, and not that I'm cussing around or anything, but the things that I would say, I was a little more fluid online, comment sections, and just more immature. I would probably, again, due to my experience with how tournament anglers across the industry treated me as a YouTuber, I'd probably say to my son, forget those guys. Don't do tournaments. Tournaments are dumb. They provide no value. Do YouTube. But now that I've been in the tournament world, and I travel with Alton and Jordan Lee now, and so I really get to hear and physically see the workings of it. I think there truly is value in both. And just like people, you know, YouTubers talk about, you know, people coming up to them and saying, what kind of videos should I make? And the answer, I think, should be you make videos that you would enjoy watching. Mm-hmm. And so to me, I enjoy watching videos where I learn something. And then if I watch a crazy entertaining video, I want it to be shot in the way that I like to shoot videos. And so if I'm going to relate that to my own kid or a subscriber out there that asks the same question, should I do tournaments or YouTube? You got to do what you like to do. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of YouTubers fishing YouTubers who have tried the tournament scene and either A, weren't good enough, or B, just didn't enjoy it. And so because of that, they've gone back to YouTube or just kind of phased out the tournament side. And there are some pro anglers that are still pretty resistant, not resistant to YouTubers, they stay like us, but they're resistant to doing it themselves or even hiring somebody just because they don't enjoy the process. And so I think to be a pro, you're going to have to enjoy the process to some extent. But as of now, you can still get away with having sponsors and fishing tournaments as long as you're at the top level and already have the sponsor support. I think you can get away without doing YouTube. But man, if you're getting into fishing content right now and you're thinking, should I film my tournaments or should I just film YouTube on the side? I mean, try everything out, see what you like to do, and then really hammer down and do more and more of what you like doing. Because I fished in college. I had some success, way more success in high school, again, because there wasn't many teams. I was beating kids that, didn't know what they were doing. And nowadays you got kids live scoping. And so I probably wouldn't do nearly as well in high school fishing now as I did. But I realized, especially at Smith Lake in, I think, my junior year of college, maybe my senior year, I had a stellar practice. I was pre-spawn. I was catching them on a jerkbait. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to try these spots. They all worked. I said, all right, I'm going to go find some more suspended fish on bluff walls. Caught them on an underspin. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've got so much going for me. This is going to be great. No matter what the weather is, I'm going to catch fish. And I get out there. Of course, I'm shaking fish off. I'm putting trebleless jerkbaits out there. And so I get out there tournament day, and to my recollection, nothing changed about the body of water. There wasn't a water level drop. There wasn't a sky conditions. There wasn't a cold front. And the spotted bass just decided to leave. And therefore, I decided to leave. We literally, that was my only college zero. I weighed in 0 fish. And we decided, you know what, to make the top 10 and qualify for the Natty, we'd have to weigh in like a 35-pound bag on Smith Lake, which I don't think that exists in Smith Lake. And so I said, you know what, I learned enough about spotted bass in practice. I'm not trying to go out there and waste more gas and learning. We're just going to go home. And so that tournament really set my mind into motion of, I've been thinking about doing, YouTube and content and not tournaments, but man, I could have made some awesome jerkbait videos, underspin videos, finesse jig videos in practice, but I had to shake all those fish off for the hope of catching them in the tournament, and it ended up being a waste.
Yeah.
And I understand that when it all happens good, and you're like we had several tournaments at Lake Texoma, that man, we shake off fish in practice, we go back there, we got a camera crew on us, we're smoking 4-pounders, and it's awesome. But that is just so rare to have that all work out well. And so I made the decision, I'm going to go full-time content, because if it is blowing 25 and I'm at Sam Rayburn, I can just go to some private lake and catch fish because I can. Mm-hmm. And when you're tied down to tournaments, you can't exactly do that. But then again, my mindset was also shifting to where I didn't care as much about winning anymore. I wanted to have fun and make a good product in terms of video. And so that's the decision I made. Now, if my son or daughter one day wants to do tournaments and they really want the competitive side of things, then I don't think you have a choice but to encourage them to go for that. But for me, I fell out of love for winning and I fell into love for making a good video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is why working for Alton's been so fun, because I get to see somebody who's on the top of their game, who is physically winning things. He won a tournament this year with me covering him. He won by 65 pounds. And so to get to do what I love to do, which is make a good product, for him doing what he loves to do, which is win, it's been the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize he won by that much. Was that the tournament where he was spinner baiting and flipping that little Japanese? What is that thing called?
G-crack. I think the bellows shad.
Bellows shad.
That's the bellows shad. There's the bellows gill, which is more of a bed fishing bait. But really the shad is too, because he designed it to be skinnier and more fits on a Texas rig hook. But I'm a Strike King guy, but I'm going to say the bellow shad on the back of a spinnerbait, that little thing is just going like this as the spinnerbait's being retrieved. And I'm not saying that's why he won. I think he stumbled upon a stretch that just had the most biting fish ever, which then I was able to learn from that experience because I physically have my headphones in my ears. As I'm filming him, I'm listening to the stuff that you guys don't get on live coverage for tournaments, not just on the water, but also off. I get to hear about the decisions he made, why he made those decisions. And then as long as he's cool with it, he lets me make videos on that technique, on the thing he learned. And every time I do that, my audience digs it. All the videos on YouTube do well. It helps my brand. It helps his brand because I'm talking about how good of an angler he is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially that tournament was so cool to watch him catch fish on a spinnerbait on those cypress trees with the wind blowing against the backside of them. And it was just, again, so cool to learn from and then make a good video of.
Yeah, that was an insane montage of fish catches in that video.
Yeah, so you're on the water following Alton Jr. Are you guys communicating back and forth? Does he feel like that helps him fish better? Having a constant communication of, kind of talking through everything?
Yeah, I think we pretty quickly realized that was the case, at least for him. Maybe not for every pro angler, but when it came to Red Crest this year, he got second place at Red Crest behind Thrift. And I think if it wasn't for local advantage, Alton would have won that tournament because he truly figured out exactly what the spotted bass were doing. And he'll tell you, and he just talked about it on Luke Duncan's Low Budget Live podcast last week, is that for him, having me and then anybody else I bring in the boat. So like several times at Heavy Hitters, a subscriber met me at the ramp and was like, hey, I love what you guys are doing. Big fans of Alton. Can I come follow you? And I was like, you know what? As long as you're not in the way, sure. And so I'm helping to bring him confidence to a certain extent. And I'm not allowed to help him with techniques or with decisions. So he'll speak out loud, man, I'm thinking about doing this, and I can't say that's a great idea or that's a bad idea because that'd be against the rules. That'd be an unfair advantage. But when he catches a big fish, I'm allowed to yell and scream and be, sometimes the only fan on the water following him because on a Wednesday morning, nobody's out there following a pro angler.
Yeah.
And so he's getting a constant support level, even if it's minuscule. And so when he makes a good decision, I'm able to affirm with just good job, go get the next one. And he also loves to talk to the camera. I don't think he knew that he would, but when he catches a big one, I mean, there's been several times, Red Crest and then Stage 7 come to mind, where he like boat flips or grabs a big one and looks at my camera with like just this look of, yeah, I'm the guy, before he looks at the MLF Live camera. And I think he just realizes that like connecting with his viewer, similar to how we've done it for years, where like I actually feel comfortable talking to the camera because I know based on the comment section and who I've met in person at the Classic and these expos, I know who I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. And now that he has seen and met the viewers that are watching his series, he is almost like looking through my lens at his viewers. And so I think it's helped his confidence pretty dramatically. I wish he had won Angler of the Year and we could tell the story that way. But again, just like I'm sure Kevin wishes he had won the last tournament as well. It doesn't always work out that way. But I think it's definitely helped him, and he'd say the same thing.
Yeah, affirmation out there on the water, like, is always a good thing. I mean, when we tournament fish together, like, I feel like we're always like, dude, good job. Like, you catch a big one, I'm trying to say, like, good job, dude. Like, get back out there. Like, I feel like it is a good thing, something that gives you confidence just to keep on going. And I think that for a lot of tournament anglers, I know that I have done this over the years, way before I started actually filming a lot of video, is I just talk to myself in general. Like, I'm literally out loud talking to myself all the time out there. Like, people probably think I'm crazy. Like, if they were sitting on a dock and I went by, I'm like, I don't know if they're going to be on there that dock. Maybe they're going to want to jig. Maybe they want this, maybe that. So be able to talk to it and actually, I think that's the big thing about, I've been doing the Lake Break series this year, and those are the ones that, I mean, people love the lure tips and techniques, and they love that, but they have really, like, people are like, I live for these series. Like, I get that comment often because, like, they do love that decision-making process, and that's something that is very hard to sit down and talk about. But it's easier to, if you're in the process saying like, man, this is why I'm thinking of doing this. And that's really what separates. That's really what helps you to become a better angler out there on the water. And I think the cool thing about that process is that it's different for everyone. Mm-hmm. You know, like what you do on the lakes that we fish is different than what I look for. You know, sometimes they're going to be the same, but a lot of times they're different. And I'm sure that's the same with Alton and yourself, Tyler. You may be thinking, like you said, you can't talk to them basically in any fishing form. You can just give them affirmation. But I bet there's times on the water you're like, man, if I was there, I'd be doing this. And then you see him catch a big one doing something maybe the opposite, and you're like, okay, well that's why he's him.
That's why I'm filming him.
Yeah. That's why I'm filming
exactly.
him. So what are your plans here for the upcoming, I mean, you guys are done filming for Alton, I believe, for the year. I'm sure you'll do stuff with him, but what are your plans for content here coming up? I know that you probably have a bunch of video too that you've kind of been saving because you posted throughout posting for him, but I'm sure that you also filmed a lot that you weren't able to get to yet.
Well, I'm going to be honest. You know, every stage of being a content creator, both for myself and for other people, it's been a learning process. And I know that having a kid will be a learning process, and getting married, it was a learning process. And so just, you know, continuing to learn and grow on how to do this best, even at different stages of life, has been a challenge, but it's been fun. This year has been extra tough. I fished, I think, the least this year of any year really since college. So the last 4 or 5 years, I fished the least, and that's just because when I'm on the water with Alton, you know, I'm not fishing. So that's 8 days times, what was it, 9 tournaments. So what's 8 times 9?
72.
56?
72.
No, 70. What I don't know. I'm not a math guy. I hate math.
Love that.
But that's a lot of. I mean, that's over 9 full weeks. That someone's gonna clip that and be like, "You have a college education and you couldn't do simple mental math."
That's okay.
But I didn't fish hardly at all then. I hardly fished at all January and February, which in Texas is like a crime because that's like our late winter pre-spawn bite. Just because I had a big freelance project for an app that I work on, and so I really had to learn this year how to make a video without catching a fish. Mm-hmm. And that was tough for me. Luckily, I've got 10 years of B-roll footage and fish catches that I can use to prove that I know what I'm talking about. But it was definitely challenging. Near the end of the season, Alton and I figured out how to make content together. Mm-hmm. So both for my channel and for his, that features both of us, you know, some sit-down stuff, some teaching things. And I'm really proud of the way that I learned how to make good teaching content, similar to the way that you, again, I keep talking about you and Tactical because I feel like our 3 channels are kind of the 3 main teaching channels right now. Mm-hmm. And so not to say that other guys aren't making good videos, but I think that's kind of how I gauge it. And so I think if we can figure out how to teach people fishing from a studio like you guys are doing right now, or from the deck of our boat in the garage, I think that's valuable to us as content creators of saving our time. But I do have plans. I'm going back to Minnesota in about a week for my last 2-week trip of the year, and I'm gonna basically just focus on filming and hardly any editing. And then I'll get a little bit of that footage out in the fall, but I'll save a lot of that footage for the spring because when it came to the early season, I didn't have enough videos stockpiled. And so, you know, if I'm doing stuff for Alton, my mind is going to be focused on him and him only in his channel. Yeah. So I really let videos early on in the season when it's pretty important in putting content out to get momentum for the channel. I really kind of slacked there. Not that I wanted to, but I couldn't film much. So I'm really going to take this. I use the word off season lightly because I don't believe in the off season. But I'm going to use this next period both for myself and for him. You know, if I'm listening to music online and trying to find songs and I hear one that's good for the Trimmed Up series for Alton, I'm going to save that song for next year. So I'm kind of trying to use these next few months before the baby gets here to really prepare my channel and his to make next year as easy as possible. So I want to catch fish. Of course, I'm going to Minnesota, going to smoke some early fall bass, but I'm definitely considering the future and what content will work well in several months from now to film now. That way I'm not as stressed come early season and early baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting when we've had a lot of off-camera talks about this, is just the education side of bass fishing, YouTube type videos, and then you have a lot on the entertainment side, and then there's a mesh of in between, I guess what you would be called the edutainment, which I think we are kind of right there in. That's kind of the term that a lot of YouTube people use, but I know that you have kind of over the years, since you've been doing this for so long, you have really done every type of content when it comes to this, like the vlog style and the purely education, the purely entertainment side of things. And I was just curious to know, like, how has that changed? Because you've been doing it for so long, how has that changed for you, like mindset wise and like, you know, even views wise? I feel like maybe back in the day, maybe viewership could come a little bit easier when you were one of the few people doing it. Just how has that changed on the YouTube side of things?
Well, there's kind of a two-part answer to this, you know, when it comes to what style of content a YouTuber should make. One, of course, I mentioned it, is make the content you want to watch. And when I was in high school, I was just learning. I mean, really, I knew how to fish, but of course I didn't know a whole lot. So I was reading Bassmaster magazine, and I was reading or watching. Who was back then? Bass Resource was really making instructional videos.
They still are, I
Bass
believe.
University a little bit. Okay, there wasn't a whole lot of good instructional content. Fluke Master, I can't leave him out. He's making instructional content, and so I was really watching a lot of those things, and again, that's what I enjoyed watching. And so most of my early videos, even if I didn't really know what I was doing, I was teaching what I knew. And so then as soon as YouTube started to grow and vlogging became a thing, and thank you Casey Neistat for that, we really, I feel like as the internet had to adjust to what people were watching, and most people wanted to see day in the life, lifestyle type content. And I'm not going to say that I disliked it, but I still liked instruction more. But because the internet was so focused on making lifestyle content, that's what I enjoyed watching as well. And so, I made the college vlogs. I mean, I will say this loud and proud. I'm responsible for like many people going to Texas A&M University because of my college vlogs. Like I would meet freshmen on campus that would say, I made the decision to come here because your videos made it look so cool. And they didn't even fish. People followed my channel. I wish they would unsubscribe now because they don't watch the fishing videos. But they subscribed because they wanted to see what a college day in the life was like. And I was doing that the best at Texas A&M. And so again, I made the videos that I enjoyed making and watching. And then as soon as I graduated college, I said, I'm going to give this a year to see if I can really make a full-time living doing this. And because I was close at this point. And I kept making the vlog videos. And I looked around at guys like Kicking Their Bass and Lojo and the whole Guggen squad. And I was like, man, they have access to cooler places to fish. And they catch bigger fish on a Barbie rod than I can. And I just kind of fell out of love with the crazy challenge aspect where there's not much teaching and there's just entertainment. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I'm going to try to go into the lane of education, but make it, as you said, as entertaining as I can, because I was getting to the point where, usually as you get older, you like the slower content, but I was still liking fast-paced content. So I wanted to learn, but also have a good time while I was learning. And so I wanted to make videos that, again, fulfilled what I like to watch. And so I kind of left behind what I felt like YouTube wanted, which was the daily content and the day in the life stuff, to do what I wanted to do. And now I'm glad I did, because YouTube, I think, has really made a turn to now YouTube and really all platforms want to develop viewer audience bases, and they want to make good culture on their platform. And so if somebody's making instructional videos with a certain entertainment focus, man, they're going to find viewers for your channel over time. And I think you can speak to this as well. I mean, over the past 4 years of doing edutainment content, man, I've really found an audience both online and in person when they come up to meet me that it really strikes a chord with them. Like, this is the way I like to learn. You make videos that don't waste my time, and I learn something, but yet you also give me a laugh, and you include funny sounds and memes to an extent. So again, that's kind of the long-winded answer of I've done it all. I've done the underwater content. It was fun to film, but the viewership kind of dwindled. And so I really think I make content that I like, but also stuff that I think helps people. Yeah. And that's the lane that I'm in now.
Yeah. Oh, good night.
As I almost knocked over my trash can.
I also know that you were like one of the first guys to really like get people together, like to collab, to get people together and like the fishing side of things, to get them together and do videos together. And I think that since then, it seems like we've done a few, and hopefully we'll do more in the future because they are fun. But I feel like it's not as popular maybe as it used to be.
Yeah, you got to a point where you had the whole group mentality of YouTubers. So you had, and even when TikTok first was blowing up 3 or 4 years ago, you had the Hype House and that kind of stuff where people got together for the sake of making content. But when I did the Texas Bass Challenge, that was Lake Fork guy, Walker Wilson, John B., Andrew Flair, One Rod, and was that it? Oh, yeah, those 6 guys and myself. And nobody had gotten together to make fishing content, and I really thought it was a good idea for all of our audiences to see all of our vantage points and have us fish together and have a good time. And so we did that. It was awesome. And after that, the Guggen Squad was formed. And I think around that same time, around YouTube in general, you had Jake Paul and Logan Paul each had their own houses, their own deals, and I'm sure there was tons of others that I'm missing. But I think now when we did the Texas Bass Challenge, the first YouTube fishing collaboration, there was enough time for a YouTube fishing viewer to watch every content creator. We were only posting once a week or twice a week, maybe. Our videos were 6 minutes long to 10 minutes. We weren't having these long videos. And so a fishing viewer had time to watch everybody. And then as soon as people realized how relatively easy it was to gain an audience and make content, man, there's a gajillion fishing channels now. And so you physically can't watch every fishing video out there, and nor would you, because now there's lots of different personalities and ways of fishing and such. And so I really think what's happening is what you're seeing is platforms are rewarding people for building a community. And sometimes that revolves around multiple people. I think on the MLF side of things, Adrian Avina, Jacob Wheeler, Mark Daniels Jr., and Dustin Connell, when they make videos together, I think it helps all of their brands, personal, social brands succeed. It has helped all of them grow faster. But besides those very few select groups that, again, still have personalities on their own, I think building your own individual channel and social brand and audience base is really where the future is. And then incorporating your friends every once in a while is the smartest move to go. Because, I mean, it's especially once life gets more complicated and you have kids and you're buying a house and you're trying to make this dream of fishing YouTube into a job. I mean, it becomes more challenging to hang out with your friends all the time and make content. So I think that's why you see Guggen guys do. I hate to keep bringing them up, but it's relevant for this conversation because they're the only true group of guys that even live together. They had a house together. So I think that's why you see them do less and less things together, because they've all had kids. They've all had, Flair has gone his ways with just farming and ranching. Lake Fork guy has had 2 or 3 kids and he's doing family life stuff. And so you're seeing you know, the YouTubers you've watched for years grow up and grow and change. And I think that's why it's kind of become a little more individualistic. But we all find our own lane to make content in that we like. And eventually YouTube or Facebook or whatever platform you post on will find the audience that likes your content as long as you are persistent and you make it over a long period of time. And as Mr. Beast says, you continue to make your newest video better than your last video. I mean, I look back at videos I made a year ago, and not only am I not happy with the lighting, I'm not happy with the audio, I'm not happy with the script at all. I mean, like I repeat myself 3 to 4 times on certain things, and I just think, how many viewers am I potentially losing on those videos? If, you know, as opposed to making that video nowadays when I'm much more precise and focused and planned out as to what I'm going to say. So I just try to make better videos than I ever have before, as well as learning how to do it with having a family.
Something that you said is like people don't have time to watch like every fishing, you know, video that's put out there right now. Absolutely. And this goes in like, you know, right now we might be really speaking to the person who might actually want to start a YouTube channel eventually. Like, quality is everything. And not only do people not have the opportunity to watch all these fishing videos, but most people have 3 to 5 different interests, like according to Forbes. So like you see it on YouTube a lot, even in myself. Like I have 3 to 5 different interests. For example, I got a griddle here about 6-7 months ago. I love watching griddle videos of guys on the griddle. So like that's something that pops up for me. I'm a big Buckeye fan. So anything Ohio State football recruiting, anything like that pops up, I watch that. So I have fishing, I have griddles, I have Buckeye football, and those are kind of the 3 interests that are continually popping up on my YouTube feed. And so not only are you competing as a fisherman, again, and I don't want to use competition, but really not only are your videos competing against the videos that other people are in the same niche, but you're also competing against these other couple of niches, which everyone has different interests. So really concentrating on quality, which I think that you have for years now, is really the way to go. And really kind of like you said, thinking about and scripting out videos. You know, there's videos that I put out even that I know like this is for the subscriber, if that makes sense. Like I have a lot of people who are subscribed. You have a lot of people who have subscribed where I'm like, I know something that I feel like could really help benefit them in fishing. And it may not apply to everyone, but I know it's going to help the subscriber. And those are the videos that you get. They're going to get a certain amount of views. And then there's videos that I'm like, you know what? I want to reach the world with this video, you know, or I try to like, and so like during the winter around here, I legitimately can't fish. So like I spent 2-3 weeks on a video and put it out, and they did really, really well, but I really had to think about things going into that. So it's just interesting, the whole YouTube fishing side of things, YouTube in general. And with all that being said, I think that I'm going to get into back into the tournament side of things next year. So that's not official. Cool. That's not official, but I really think it's going to be there. Everything's coming kind of to fruition with it. So hopefully that'll very cool. Out,
and can I say something else? Can I say something else about YouTube?
Yeah.
And collaborations.
100%.
You know, one thing I've noticed about collaborating is that, like I said, back in the day, 7-8 years ago, when we first started doing fishing collaborations, if you bass fished, you watched everybody. So if I plugged a new channel, there was an immediate, yes, I like this guy's videos because obviously I do because he bass fishes. But now that there's different styles out there, and I've got old guys that watch the channel that I guarantee do not watch a lot of the pond guys or bank fishing guys or whatever that have more of like a flashy, you know, yelling at the camera, zooming in and out, because that's just like they're I'm not saying their brain can't handle it, but it's like that's too much for somebody. That's too much for somebody who doesn't like that style of content. And so in order to truly benefit from a collaboration, your audience doesn't necessarily have to be the same type of interest, but they have to have the same mindset behind that interest. So I think you were talking about Ohio State Buckeyes, football recruiting, and griddling. If you were to pick or if I was to tell you to do a collaboration, I would say go find some chef who's doing high quality griddle instructional videos on how to make, hibachi steak or whatever they're making, and go on their channel and have them teach you how to do it. And then on your channel, you teach them how to fish. And there's a good cross promotion there because their viewers are probably wanting to be entertained by a good, funny, guy who can cook, but also they want to be educated on how to do something. And you're doing the same thing mentally on your channel, where you are teaching bass fishing, but also entertaining them as well. And so that's kind of the lens that I take collaborations with. When I collaborated with Paul Macbeth, the best disc golfer on the planet, I love disc golf. It's one of my interests. It's a ton of fun. But collaborating with a channel that doesn't teach anything in terms of disc golf wouldn't help me. And so I again, Paul is also a household name in the disc golf world, but on his channel, he likes to teach certain things. And so our audiences meshed really well. I collaborated with a channel down in Austin 2 years ago, and the name's escaping me. They're like Mythbusters type guys. But man, I hate that I'm talking about them and I can't remember the name. But their channel is all about testing theories and learning things. And so I looked in the comment section of their video, and there was hardly any people that were upset by a fishing video. They liked the fact that I was teaching something about fishing. And so if you're trying to make a channel out there, and you have a buddy who makes gaming videos or lifestyle videos, and you think that by collaborating with a big channel that it's going to help your channel out, I don't think it will. And this is why I turned down a decent amount of collaborations, because the audiences just don't mesh. Mm-hmm. And that's just one thing that I've learned because of years of doing this, that collaborating with you would make a whole lot of sense, because our audiences share so many of the same, not only primary interests, but also the way in which they like to watch that interest. Mm-hmm. But if I was to collaborate with, even Alton to a certain extent, but especially really, really tournament-focused videos, I'm not sure if that would really do a whole lot for me, because, mm-hmm. and I wouldn't do a whole lot for them, because most of my audience isn't tournament fishermen, and most of the audience of tournament fishermen is not recreational pond anglers who fish out of their kayak or their John boat. And so I try to bridge the gap the best I can when collaborating, but sometimes it's just not worth your time, because you may get a decent amount of views or a bump on one video, but if you truly want to build a channel, you've got to stay consistent with both the style of content you like making and the people that you introduce in your videos, to your audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's that's a perfect point. I think you do get people all the time like, hey, shout me out on this or do this, or even on Instagram. I'm sure you get that. You have a pretty big Instagram following. So I do think that people try to do that. They want that quick route to success on the social game, but it's a long haul. It really is. Well, what a fun episode that was. If you guys have missed any of the Bass Juice podcast, I'm going to leave a link right here for the playlist so that you can check out all of our episodes. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.